Ever feel like that traditional money advice, get good grades, land a stable job, save for a rainy day, like it's missing something.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole chapter missing on how to actually build wealth, not just hold on to whatever's left over after all the bills are paid.
Exactly.
Well, today we're diving into a book that kind of throws all that conventional wisdom right out the window. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, and while Kiyosaki's ideas, they definitely, start their fair share of debate, that core message about financial literacy, understanding how money truly works, it's more relevant than ever.
Totally. I think it's less about like following one rigid set of rules and more about adopting a whole new perspective on money, right?
Exactly. It's about seeing the world of money through the lens of what Kiyosaki calls the cash flow quadrant. So now imagine, if you will, a cross with 4 boxes.
Okay.
Each one is going to represent a different way people earn a living.
Okay.
So you got employees in one, self-employed, business owners, and then investors.
Okay. I'm picturing it.
Okay.
But it's not about saying that like one is better than the other.
No, right. It's not a hierarchy, no.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the flow of money in your life,
Yeah.
where your income comes from, where it goes, and ultimately how that positions you to build real wealth.
And that leads us to one of Kiyosaki's most, I think, famous concepts, assets versus liabilities.
Huge one.
I'll admit, the first time I heard him say that a house isn't always an asset, my mind was a little blown.
Yeah.
So how does this rich dad perspective, how does it challenge that traditional view of, say, home ownership?
Well, think of it this way. An asset puts money in your pocket every month.
Okay.
A liability, it takes money out.
Okay.
So that house you own, it's got a mortgage, you got property taxes, probably needs maintenance, all that stuff.
Sure.
All those expenses mean it's at least currently a liability.
Okay.
Even if it's a valuable one.
Okay, so how would, like the rich dad in this scenario, how would he view that same house?
He would see it through the lens of cash flow.
Okay.
So if that house could be rented out, generating income that not only covers those expenses, but actually puts money back in your pocket, now it's working for you.
Okay.
Now it's acting as an asset.
That's such a practical way to like reframe it.
Right.
It's not about saying home ownership is bad. It's just being honest about the numbers.
Exactly.
And the mechanics of it.
Absolutely. And, this applies to so much more than just real estate.
Oh, yeah.
Think about your own, spending habits for a second. Where does most of your income go each month?
Yeah.
Honestly, ask yourself, could any of those expenses, maybe that expensive gym membership you never use,
Oh, yeah.
could that be, transformed into an asset with a little creative thinking?
Ooh, that's a good point. Maybe it's time to launch that online course I've been thinking about.
There you go. You're getting it.
Yeah?
And that leads us perfectly into another one of the Kiyosaki's, I think, really big ideas, why the rich don't work for money.
Oh, okay.
They make money work for them.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. Tell me more.
All right. It all boils down to the different types of income.
Okay.
Most of us, we're familiar with earned income.
Right, the grind.
Yeah, you trade your time and your skills for a paycheck.
Yeah.
It's the classic model.
It's what we're all kind of taught to strive for, right?
Exactly. But what if you could build assets that generate income even while you're sleeping?
Ooh.
Or you're on vacation? Or you're, hosting a podcast?
Sounds like a dream.
That's passive income. And Kiyosaki argues that this should be a key focus for anyone who wants to build real wealth.
Okay.
Then there's portfolio income, which is about putting your money to work in the markets through things like dividend-paying stocks, real estate investment trusts, or even peer-to-peer lending.
So it's like instead of us working for our money, it's making our money work for us.
Yes.
Instead of constantly trading our time for money, it's creating a system where our money generates more money.
Exactly. And to illustrate this, Kiyosaki shares a really fascinating story about buying his first rental property.
Oh, wow.
Now, he didn't start with a ton of cash, okay? He actually used a strategy called a sandwich lease option. He leased a property with the option to buy, then sublet it at a higher price.
Wow.
The difference in rent is what he used to fund his purchase.
Wow, that's incredible.
Talk about thinking outside the box.
It really highlights the importance of not just having the money, but having the knowledge and the creativity.
Yes.
To make it work for you.
Being financially literate.
Yes.
Absolutely. And this isn't just about becoming a real estate mogul.
Yeah.
It's about understanding there are multiple paths to building wealth.
This has me thinking, what's one skill our listeners could maybe develop, even if it's just a side hustle, that could potentially generate passive income down the road?
That's the question.
Right.
That's it.
What could it be? I don't know, writing an ebook, creating online courses, building an app.
Absolutely.
The possibilities when you start thinking outside that box are really endless.
If you're willing to invest the time and energy to learn something new,
Yes.
and that willingness to learn is really at the heart of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
So we've been really digging into these like rich dad concepts, assets, liabilities, different types of income.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what about those folks who hear all this and they're like, yeah, that sounds great in theory, but I could never make that work for me?
Right.
How does Kiyosaki address that kind of thinking?
That's where things get really interesting because he doesn't shy away from the mental game, you know? He actually identifies like 5 major roadblocks that hold people back from actually achieving financial success. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance.
Okay.
And he dives particularly deep on those first 2, fear and cynicism.
Let's start with fear. Kiyosaki uses, I think, a really bold analogy.
Yeah.
He says, remember the Alamo.
Right.
Is he saying we should all be like financial daredevils just charging into these risky investments, even if all signs point to no?
No, not quite.
Okay.
It's not about glorifying like recklessness, you know.
Right.
It's about recognizing how fear can often disguise itself as practicality.
Okay.
You know, it keeps us from even exploring opportunities.
Right.
That might seem a little unconventional, a little outside our comfort zone.
So it's about reframing how we view even failure, not as like a reason to give up, but as a chance to learn from it, adapt, and then come back stronger, right?
100%.
It's like, okay, that didn't go as planned. What can I learn from this experience?
Exactly.
How can I apply that to my next decision?
And that leads us right into that second obstacle.
Okay.
Cynicism.
Okay.
How many times have you found yourself saying, that's only for rich people, or I could never pull that off?
Oh, more times than I care to admit, probably.
Right.
It's easy to get stuck in those thought patterns.
Absolutely.
Especially when we're constantly like bombarded by messages of how hard it is to get ahead.
Exactly. And here's the thing about cynicism.
Okay.
Kiyosaki would argue that it's often just fear in disguise.
Really?
Remember that line from the book, I don't want to fix toilets? On the surface, sounds like someone just dismissing a task, right?
Right.
But underneath, it might actually be a fear of getting your hands dirty,
Interesting.
a fear of learning a new skill, of actually stepping outside that comfort zone to pursue a potentially lucrative opportunity.
So instead of immediately shutting down an idea because it sounds too good to be true, or it doesn't fit in with our current, like, reality,
Yeah,
maybe it's about getting a little curious.
absolutely.
What would it take to actually make this work?
Yeah,
What would I need to learn? What would I need to do differently?
you've got it.
Right.
That's where the real power lies.
Yeah.
In realizing that you have more control over your financial destiny
Oh, I love that.
than you might think.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about blindly following someone else's formula.
Right.
It's about developing your own knowledge, your own skills, and the mindset to create your own path.
Speaking of mindset, Kiyosaki, he really stresses that financial education isn't just about, memorizing facts and figures from a textbook.
Right.
It's about cultivating like a rich dad mentality.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking.
What does that actually mean?
It's about shifting from that scarcity mindset to a mindset of abundance,
Okay.
seeing money as a tool to be leveraged,
Okay.
not something to be
I'll
feared
say it.
or worshipped, right?
So instead of worrying about, oh, I don't have enough, it's okay, what do I have and how can I use it?
Exactly.
How can I create more?
And a big part of that is understanding the value of financial literacy.
Yeah.
You know, Kiyosaki, he argues this is something we should be teaching our kids from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about how much money you have.
Right.
It's about understanding how money works.
And that knowledge is what gives you the power,
Right.
to make those smart decisions, whether you're negotiating a salary, investing in real estate, or even just like managing your day-to-day expenses.
It's about taking control of your financial future instead of feeling like you're at the mercy of your circumstances.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from like rethinking assets and liabilities to understanding these different income streams and even tackling those mental roadblocks that can really hold us back.
Absolutely.
But I think the real magic happens when we actually start to apply these rich dad principles to our own lives.
It's not enough to just like intellectually grasp these concepts.
Right.
The real transformation happens when we start putting them into action.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like reading a cookbook versus actually rolling up your sleeves and cooking the meal.
Exactly.
So what's one maybe small but concrete step that our listeners could take today to start shifting their mindset and moving towards that rich dad way of thinking?
One simple yet powerful exercise is to actually just track your spending for a month.
Oh.
And I don't mean to make yourself feel bad.
Right.
It's just to get a clear picture of where your money is actually going.
Yeah.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
Oh, 100%. It's so easy to be in denial about our spending.
Yeah.
Until we see it there in black and white.
It's true. And then once you have that awareness, you can start making more conscious choices about where you actually want your money to go.
It's about making those small, daily decisions.
Yeah.
But from that place of, I don't know, financial empowerment.
Yes.
Rather than just feeling like we're always playing catch up.
I think that's a really great takeaway for our listeners.
Yeah.
Financial freedom. It's not about becoming a millionaire overnight.
Right.
It's about cultivating that mindset of abundance, investing in your own financial literacy, and making those conscious choices that align with your long-term goals.
It's about really taking control of your financial destiny.
Yes.
One smart decision at a time.
Love it.
And who knows, with the right mindset, a little rich dad inspiration, maybe that dream of building real wealth, it's not so far-fetched after all.
It's possible.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.